Hey peeps, we're Karen and Ricky, and this is Time to Go Places. We're an Aussie couple in our 50s, just starting our travel adventures, and the first place we wanted to share with you is Prague. Castles, cobblestones, beer trains, and beautiful chaos. We'll show you what to see, what to skip, what you definitely need to sip, and what it'll all cost. So sit back, grab a snack. It's time to go places. Prague has been around for over 1,000 years. Think kings, castles, cobblestones, and a few rebellions thrown in just for good measure. These days, it's all good beer and random surprises around every corner. We were here in September 2024, right at the start of autumn. The weather was just perfect for wandering in the streets. We stayed at Hotel Cube, just a short walk from Old Town. It was clean, modern, and quiet. And the bed, oh, so comfy. We paid about $200 Australian per night, and for the location, we reckon it was well worth it. After checking in, we wandered down to have a look at the dancing house. It can be a pretty busy intersection though, so if you want to snap a pic without all the bustle, head down first thing in the morning before the traffic starts getting hectic. Our next stop was a boat bar. It had a beautiful view of the river. A standard beer here will set you back about 65 Czech crowns, which is $4.40 Australian. There are some great riverside bars and cafés to explore in this area. These were old riverbank storage vaults, which have now been converted into bars, cafés and galleries. Along this stretch of the river, you'll also stumble across a barge that holds a large single bell. This bell represents the 9,801 bells that were taken from Czech churches during World War II. Dinner tonight was at a charming Czech restaurant just behind the National Theatre. The walls are decked out with all sorts of amazing antiques, from musical instruments to old typewriters and telephones. Ricky ordered the Czech goulash, rich and hearty with loads of paprika and onions, perfect with a cold beer, and I went for the wild boar in creamy mushroom sauce. It came with dumplings that soaked up all the saucy goodness. And yes, we finished with an apple strudel, because when in Prague, right? Seriously though, if you're in Prague, do yourself a favour and check this place out. That's day one done and dusted. We didn't get lost, we didn't spill any beer, and we only had one dessert. With our bellies full, we toddled back to Hotel Cube for a good night's rest. Day 2 in Prague. After 23 hours of flights, taxis and layovers, we decided to kick things off with a massage. We visited Thai Fit 2 and enjoyed a massage for two, which cost around 2,400 Czech crowns. Next up, we went down to check out Kafka's rotating head, and yep, it really does spin. It's a weird and wonderful tribute to Prague's most famous surrealist. Kafka's writing was all about anxiety, absurdity, and feeling trapped, so a giant spinning head kind of fits. We decided to keep lunch on the quirky side, so we went to a restaurant where our meals and drinks are delivered by model trains on tracks that run all through the tables. We did book ahead for this, and I'm glad we did, because the place filled up really quick. For 2 mains and 2 beers, it was 679 Czech crowns, which is about 48 Australian dollars. From here, we had a bit of a wander over to Wenceslas Square in the new town. This is where you'll find the National Museum, an equestrian statue of St. Wenceslas, and plenty of shops and restaurants. As our tummies were already full, we headed off to Strana Passage to see the upside-down horse statue. And yep, that's St. Wenceslas on the horse. We tried to find the paternoster lifts, a chain of open compartments that move slowly and continuously in a loop, up on one side, down on the other. It's kind of like a vertical conveyor belt. Turns out these historic lifts aren't marked, and they're tucked away in a pretty average looking office building, so we didn't have any luck finding them. We also trekked out to see the R2-D2 and the Minions art. Sadly, it was all vandalised. And a quick tip about those chimney cakes you see everywhere: they smell amazing and they look great, but the locals don't actually eat them. They think they're a total tourist trap. Instead of heading to another big tourist spot, we crossed the river and wandered into Prague's little quarter on the far side. We watched the people strolling past and the swans floating by. Totally relaxing. We rounded off the day with dinner at a historic beer hall and home to one of the strongest beers in the world. So of course we had to give it a try. We had a selection of sausages, pate with bacon and cranberry, which was amazing, and of course we had to have the Czech schnitzel with potato salad. No Aussie is ever going to pass up a pub schnitty. All up, dinner was around 850 Czech crowns, which is about 55 Australian dollars. Day 2 didn't go perfectly, but that's just part of the adventure of travelling, right? Day 3 started early, like before sunrise early. We wanted to catch one of the city's most iconic sights without the crowds, the Charles Bridge. Wandering the cobbled streets in the early morning is just magical. And if you're into photography and visiting Prague, then you need to explore the streets early in the morning at least once. You won't be disappointed. Just a short walk away from Charles Bridge is Prague's narrowest alley. Just around the corner, you'll find something a bit more unique. It's a statue of 2 men peeing in a small pond that's the shape of the Czech Republic. Because, well, why not? Next up was the old mill water wheel. And this was first mentioned in records from the 15th century. One of the sites that was really special to me was visiting the Lennon wall. It's been covered in graffiti since the 1980s, when students began painting Beatles lyrics and peaceful protest messages during communist rule. Over the years, it became a symbol of freedom and expression, and the wall is constantly changing. 2 more quirky art pieces are the yellow penguins lining the river and the crawling babies. We finished the morning by crossing over onto the island. It's a green escape in the middle of the river. Peaceful, local and full of swans, and apparently a creature called a koipu, which are like chunky river rats. Thankfully we didn't see any. In the afternoon we joined a guided tour of Prague Castle, which by the way is the largest ancient castle complex in the world. The tour took about 3 hours and was absolutely worth it. Skip the lines, learn the stories from the locals and get the best views of Prague. We booked our tour with Prague Free Tour. I'll put the link to our tour below. It cost us about 1,175 Czech, which is about 83 Australian dollars each. Also, a quick heads up for fellow Aussies. While tipping's not really our thing at home, it's kind of expected here, especially when you do a guided tour. So make sure you've got a few euros or US dollars handy. They really appreciate it. In Prague, a tour guide tip is usually around €5. It's day 4 and today we're driving into Old Town Prague. Home of towers, clocks, spooky legends, and a surprising number of spots where you can grab a cheeky beer or two. We started out the day at the Crematorium. This is home to one of Europe's most beautiful libraries and Prague's second biggest building after the Prague Castle. Now you can't walk inside the Baroque library itself, but you can take photos from the doorway. And believe me, it's absolutely worth it. Albert Einstein taught here and Mozart played here numerous times. The full tour lasts about 50 minutes and includes access to the astronomical tower, which gives you some of the best views over Prague. This is the Meridian Room, one of the oldest ways of telling time in Prague. We booked ahead and paid 300 crowns each. That's around $19.50 Australian. Definitely worth it if you love history and great views. Just a few blocks away is a statue that's been dubbed Prague's Darth Vader. It's actually a monument to a Czech writer, but once you see Darth, you can't unsee it. From there we wandered through to Little Square, past the famous House in a Minute, which is a typical example of Czech Renaissance townhouse architecture, and into the heart of Old Town. This part of Prague is all about facades, Baroque, Gothic, and a little bit fairy tale. The astronomical clock puts on a little show every hour, complete with skeletons ringing bells and apostles parading by. But honestly, it's a little bit underwhelming and it's super crowded. For lunch, we ducked into a no-frills local spot with a cafeteria-style service. You grab a tray, point to what you want, and hope for the best. Here we had 2 mains, 1 side, and 2 beers. So total cost was around 420 Czech crowns, about 27 Australian dollars. This memorial honours Jan Hus, a Czech priest and reformer who was burned at the stake on July 6, 1415. He spoke out against church corruption and became a national symbol of resistance. After lunch, we casually wandered around the old town and checked out a few churches, like St. Nicholas and Our Lady Before Tin. We strolled past the Powder Tower. It's one of Prague's original city gates. It was built in the 15th century and once used to store gunpowder. It's dark, dramatic, and the perfect example of Gothic architecture towering over the modern city. Of course, all of this sightseeing built up a thirst, so we just had to pop into the Red Stag bar, serving cold beer, and it's great for people watching. Now, for all our Aussie viewers, this is not considered a bad beer pour in Prague. This is a very popular way of serving your beer in Prague, and it's called a milko. It's 90% foam, and the locals love it for the creamy texture and the slightly sweeter taste. We ended the day in the Manifesto Market, an open-air food hall with live music, twinkling lights, and every cuisine under the sun. A perfect way to finish day 4. Day 5, and it's our final day in Prague, so we decided to keep it a little bit low-key. After days of walking, castles, towers, and beers, we spent the morning doing something completely different. We went to the zoo. The entrance cost was around 330 Czech crowns, which is about 31.50 Australian. And to get there we caught a tram and a bus. Prague Zoo is ranked one of the top 5 zoos in the world, and it's not hard to see why. It's seriously impressive. It's spread across a massive hillside and home to over 600 species. It was one of the most relaxing parts of our trip. We saw lions, lemurs, flamingos, giraffes, and some very cheeky monkeys. It's a bit of a climb in places, but it's definitely worth it. This zoo opened in 1931 and it spans 140 acres. We stopped at a little kiosk in the zoo for some strudel and ice cream, and I made a new friend. After a full day at the zoo, we had definitely earned a beer or two, so we headed to another traditional Czech beer hall for our last dinner in Prague. The meals were delicious. Dinner for 2 and 2 beers cost around 600 Czech crowns, which is about 39 Australian dollars. We finished our Prague adventure with one last stroll through Old Town, across the Charles Bridge, and back along the river. The lights reflected on the water, and the whole city felt like a postcard. 5 days in Prague, and we barely scratched the surface. Castles, cobblestones, weird art, and a lot of dumplings. It's a city that feels like a fairy tale with a few beers thrown in. And honestly, we would come back in a heartbeat. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the trip, please give us a like and subscribe for more of our adventures, because it's time to go places.